it's lights out and away we go. Hamilton gets a mega start and Valtteri Bottas under pressure already, and there's trouble maybe at the back as the Team Mercedes go wheel to wheel.
So, my name is Nicholas Gallimore, and I am a senior in computer science. As you can see, I decided to do my topic on Formula One. So, the Formula One industry is a very interesting market to analyze using what we have learned in our class. The industry consists of 10 teams, of which each has 2 drivers. Teams want to have good cars and lots of money to attract the best driver. Financial capital correlates directly with victory. I chose this topic because it is very interesting and the market forces are clearly visible. A lot of this information I learned while watching a series on Netflix called Formula One Drive to Survive. It is about the perils that each team goes through and what they have to do. In it, you get a glimpse into the window of what it is like to operate a Formula One team and what goes on and how to operate the business. So my first example is probably the best example of applying what we learned in the class and analyzing how the Red Bull Formula One racing team selects their engine. Most teams in Formula One are car manufacturers. However, Red Bull, as you know, is an energy drink. They do not have money to make their own engines. So in past seasons, they bought their engine from a company called Renault, which is the largest car manufacturer in Europe or the world, I'm not sure. But as tensions got high between Renault and Red Bull in terms of competition, as in Red Bull was in 3rd place and Renault was in 4th, Red Bull decided to dump Renault and side with Honda. A lot of the times, the cars do not finish the race due to car problems. Red Bull had a series of unfortunate events throughout the 2018 season, such as they were in 1st place and then they had engine failure. So it wasn't a very good day for them. But by switching to Honda, Red Bull effectively reduced their supplier's market force by switching to another engine manufacturer. It also seems that they have a long-term goal of building their own engines one day. So it was pretty awkward between Renault and Red Bull at one point in time. My second example is the competitiveness of the market. And this is the real interesting one. You would think that competitive Formula One racing would be pretty competitive, but it is actually the opposite of a competitive industry. If you take a look at the final standings for 2018, you will see that you have Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull are the only people who had wins. Now, everyone else, they haven't had any wins. But this is a typical season, actually. If you look at the budget of these two teams, you will see that Mercedes has 405 million, or had 405 million in this 2018 season, and Ferrari had 410 million. Now, Red Bull had 310 million, which is a little bit less, but it's still a lot of money. But if you look at, for example, Haas, who had 0 wins, they only had 130 million. So they're working with almost 1/4 the budget of Ferrari and Mercedes. Renault had 190 million, which is pretty good. But Haas, for having such a low budget, actually had a successful season despite not having any wins and no podiums. A podium is when you're in 1st or 2nd place. They, in the documentary on Netflix, there was a lot going on between Haas wanting to beat McLaren. So there was 2 main points of drama. It was the Red Bull and Renault, like Red Bull deciding not to use their engine, and then one of the Red Bull's drivers actually quit in the middle of the season and he went to Renault. So Red Bull decided to not use their engine and then picked up Honda, and then so Renault suffered a lot of money because they were counting on money from Red Bull purchasing their engine. So Red Bull effectively reduced their competitiveness. But then their Red Bull team they were relying on this. They had a younger driver and the drivers are really young, like 19, 20, like crazy young. But Red Bull was investing all their money in this like 19-year-old driver, and then there was another like 25-year-old driver who was kind of like salty actually about it, and he decided to leave Red Bull at the end of the season and go to Renault. So after the engine deal was announced, then the driver switch was announced. So Red Bull has an empty seat to fill. So that was very interesting. So the Red Bull Renault dynamic was pretty cool. And then the Haas McLaren drama was pretty cool as well, because if you finish in the 5th place rather than 6th, you get more money. So the better you do, the more money you make. So it's kind of you see how Mercedes has the most money, but they keep winning, and it's kind of like they have a really good competitive advantage. Now here's the real interesting fact. No one has won a race in 2017 even, besides Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull. 2016, same story. 2015, same story. It goes all the way back to 2013. No one has won a race besides Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull since 2013. Now, in 2013, 6 years ago, Renault actually won a race. But that's just crazy. Like, I don't know. It just kind of blew my mind that there's a sport where all these teams are competing and they've never won a race or come even close to beating it. And also, the reason Force India is at the bottom is because they were funded by a billionaire in Saudi Arabia, and he actually went under prosecution and for doing something bad, probably. I don't know what it was, but he actually ended up going to jail, and their team just plummeted to the bottom because of that, and they had to find new sponsors. So it's pretty interesting how money correlates directly with their success. But these other teams, they're kind of in building mode. So Haas, they had the successful season because they didn't spend that much money, but they got the most points. So there's like a money to point ratio that you want to have, and if you do that well, then you have it, you're doing good. So Haas is slowly building, so maybe in the next couple years, maybe they could get 4th place to get more money, and you see they want to keep slowly moving up, so they want to eliminate the competitive advantage that Mercedes has. Now Mercedes just wants to crush everyone, and they are. My third example is the technology used by each team. For example, Sauber, they have like pretty much like a van full of servers at the track, and what they do is they collect data on everything, such as like tire pressure, tire temperature, like elapsed times, like split differentials, like how far behind they are the first place, and they have to do this for like two drivers, and it's all real-time data, and there's all this data that they have to analyze real time because they want to make decisions on when to pit stop, when to add fuel, and to do all these different things. Now, fuel is kind of interesting. Fuel weighs a lot, so you don't want to overfuel. So if you're driving really hard in the beginning of the race, you can't just take the average, because you might be driving harder in the beginning and not as hard at the end. Like, oh, take it easy on the car, they'll say to the driver. Different things like that. When to pit. Say you're in first place and the other people are like 10 seconds behind you. A pit stop might take 5 seconds. To actually stop, and then you might fall back to, like, if you're in first place, you might fall back to like 2nd or 3rd. When do you do that? Do you do that when there's like 10 laps left, for example? So that's one of the other things that the business decision is kind of they help with. And that's just the real-time analysis on the track. There's also the business decisions such as which engine supplier to use, which I already covered. But the Netflix documentary is right here. It's called Formula 1 Drive to Survive. The Art of War. There's a lot of drama in it. It's fairly cool. So hopefully you might be more interested in Formula 1 now. I'm not a huge Formula 1 fan, but I still found the documentary pretty interesting, and it kind of did kind of directly correlate to the market forces stuff that we were learning in class. So hopefully you might find it interesting too. If not, thank you for watching this. Have a good day.